There is a grave. It was dug 30,000 years ago. Inside it, the body of a child, maybe 8 years old, maybe 10. Around the body, someone placed 3,500 hand-drilled ivory beads, thousands of Arctic fox teeth, carved mammoth figurines, bracelets made from shell that came from a sea 500 miles away. This child was buried with more wealth than most humans alive today will ever hold in their hands. Here's what makes no sense. This child never worked a day in their life, never farmed, never traded, never built an empire. They died before they were old enough to do anything. And yet, whoever buried them treated that small body like it was the most important thing in the world. Scientists found this grave in Russia. They found another one in Egypt, one in China, one in the Americas. Every single time, the same pattern. The dead were buried with treasure, real treasure. And sometimes, the dead were buried with more than the living ever had. Why? Why would humans, starving, freezing, fighting to survive, stop everything, spend days, sometimes weeks, and pour their most precious resources into a hole in the ground? For someone who could no longer use any of it, that question has one answer. And the answer changes how you understand every religion, every economy, every government, and every war ever fought on this planet. Okay, so let me show you exactly what we're dealing with here. Russia, 1969. A team of scientists is digging near a tiny village, about 2 hours east of Moscow. Nothing special. They are expecting old bones, maybe a cracked stone tool, if they're lucky. And then they find it. 2 children, buried side by side, head to head, and covering their bodies, thousands upon thousands of tiny ivory beads. The clothing they were stitched onto had rotted away completely, but the beads, still there, perfectly preserved. So the scientists do what scientists do. They sit down and count every single one, 10,000 beads. And when they figured out how long each bead took to make by hand, roughly 45 minutes each, they realized something that genuinely made them stop and stare at each other. Someone had spent over 7,500 hours making grave decorations. That's 4 years. 4 full years of one person's entire life, poured into a hole in the ground for 2 children. I want you to really sit with that for a second. These weren't wealthy people. There were no shops, no farms, no safety net. Every single day was a fight to find food. Every hour of daylight mattered for survival. And they chose to spend 4 years on this. But wait, because here's the detail that really got the scientists. Those 2 children had physical disabilities. Thousands of years later, these kids weren't the offspring of some great, powerful leader. They weren't special by any survival measure. In a brutal world where strength kept you alive, these children were the ones the group had to look after. And yet, 4 years. Okay, different story. Still completely insane. Iraq, the 1920s. A British archaeologist named Leonard Woolley is carefully digging through an ancient buried city called Ur. He's excited. He's found a royal tomb. He expects a dead king, some gold, normal stuff. He opens the chamber and finds 74 other people inside, all laid out neatly, all dead. But here is the part that should genuinely disturb you. They weren't dragged in. They walked in, on their own. Scientists found small cups next to every single body, cups they had drunk from, a drink that killed them quietly, so they could follow their king into whatever came next. 74 people chose to die for a man who was already dead. So I have to ask you, what kind of belief does that? What do you have to believe deep in your bones for that to feel like the right thing to do? That is what we're going to find out. All right, here is something I need you to think about for a second. Have you ever lost someone you really loved, and weeks later, maybe months later, you catch yourself thinking, oh, I should tell them about this? Or you're driving and a song comes on, and for half a second, you forget they're gone. You turn to say something, and then it hits you again. That happens to everyone, and most people just call it grief. But it's actually something much more interesting than that. Your brain has one job. It cares about more than almost anything else. Tracking the people around you. Where are they? What are they thinking? What will they do next? It runs this system constantly. And here's the thing. When someone dies, nobody tells your brain to stop. So it doesn't. It keeps running. It keeps generating them, keeps them alive inside your head long after they're gone from the world. Now, imagine you're living 30,000 years ago. No science, no hospitals, no explanations. Someone you love dies, and they just vanish. But inside your head, they're still there, still talking, still watching. What would you conclude? You would conclude they went somewhere. Somewhere you can't see, somewhere powerful. And if that's true, if the dead are still out there, still aware, still capable of affecting your life, then you absolutely want to stay on their good side. The grave wasn't a goodbye. It was a negotiation. Here, take this gold, take these weapons, take this food. Remember us. Help us. Don't forget we loved you. It is the most rational thing a human being could do if they genuinely believed the dead were still watching. But now I'm going to tell you something that flips this whole story upside down, because it wasn't just about the dead at all. Think about the people standing around that burial, watching all that treasure go into the ground. What are they learning? They are learning who matters. Before any laws were written, before any king ever sat on a throne, before money even existed, the only way to say, this person is above everyone else, was to bury them like they were above everyone else. That funeral was the first government. The crowd watching was the first election. The gold in the grave was the first law. And the family controlling that burial were the first rulers. Let that land for a second. Every empire in history, every dynasty, every royal bloodline started at a grave. The dead weren't just being honored. The dead were being used to tell the living exactly who was in charge. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Okay, but that was primitive people, thousands of years ago. We know better now. Do we, though? Let me walk you through what came next. China. About 2,200 years ago, one emperor dies, and his people spend 38 years building his grave. 38 years. They fill it with 8,000 life-sized clay soldiers, each one with a unique face, unique armor, unique expression, full-size bronze chariots, real weapons. And according to the ancient records, rivers of real liquid mercury flowing through underground channels in the palace, so his spirit could travel in death exactly as he had in life. More than 700,000 people worked on it. Egypt was burying its wealth for so long that at the peak, an entire third of the food from some regions went to the burial industry, not to the living, to the dead. Vikings would drag a full longship from the sea when a great leader died, load it with gold, weapons, horses, food, sometimes people, killed specifically to go with the body, then bury the whole ship underground. Every culture, every continent, every single era of human history, all doing the same thing, because it turned out this ritual, this strange, expensive, seemingly irrational act of burying treasure with dead people, was the glue. It was the thing that held human groups together. Think about it. We are literally the only animal on Earth that cooperates in huge groups with total strangers. Wolves work together, but only with wolves they personally know. We build cities of millions. We follow rules written by people who died before our grandparents were born. We die for flags. How? Why? Because we share a story. And the oldest shared story humans have ever had, older than any religion, older than any written language, is that the dead are still here, still watching. If you believe that, you behave differently. You share more. You sacrifice more. You hold the line when you want to run. Every major religion ever created has one thing sitting at its very center: a promise about what waits for you after you die. Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism, the ancient Egyptians, the Aztecs, all of them. That is not a coincidence. That promise is what makes civilization possible. And now, the part that is going to make you look at your own life differently. We still do all of this. Right now. The average funeral in America costs between $7,000 and $12,000. We buy expensive hardwood coffins for bodies going into the ground. We pay for grave plots in cities where the living can barely afford to rent, so the dead can have a nice location. In Mexico, families bring food and drinks to grave sites every single year. In China, people burn paper money, paper cars, paper smartphones, because they want their ancestors to have what they need on the other side. We are, today, in 2026, doing the exact same thing as that person kneeling over a child's grave in the Ice Age. Because this thing inside us, this need, it never left. I want to take you back to that child one more time. Russia, 30,000 years ago, the Ice Age. Someone, maybe a parent, maybe a brother or sister, maybe just someone in the group who loved that child, spent 4 years of their life carving tiny pieces of ivory, bead by bead by bead, 10,000 of them, so that when they laid that child in the ground, that child would not look forgotten. That is one of the most human things I have ever come across in all of history. Not because it is grand or powerful or impressive, but because it is just love. Raw, stubborn, irrational love that refused to accept that someone was gone. And here is what I keep coming back to. That love, that specific act, rippled forward through 30,000 years of human history. Every group that did something like that built bonds that held, built communities that survived, built families that grew. And from those families, across 1,000 generations, across every continent, across every war and famine and disaster this planet has thrown at us, you eventually showed up. You are sitting here right now because somewhere in your family line, someone refused to let go of someone they loved. The stubbornness of human grief, that one emotion that feels like weakness, is actually the thing that kept our entire species alive. I don't know about you, but I find that genuinely beautiful. and a little bit terrifying. There will come a day when someone you love will be buried, and you will stand there, and you will feel that same pull, that same irrational need to give something, to stay a little longer, to say one more thing. Don't fight it. That pull has been keeping humans alive since before history began. It is the oldest thing inside you, and now you know where it came from. If this made you see something differently, even just one thing, I'd really love it if you subscribe.